One of the most difficult relationship questions is what to do with your opposite you. You know the one. It's the person with whom you fundamentally disagree. You drive a hybrid, he chugs around in a gas-guzzling truck. You vote red, she votes blue. You follow different value systems. You embrace different philosophies. You adhere to different codes of behavior. It's hard to know the best way to respond to the people who represent your opposite you. Do you ignore them, leave the room when they enter so you don't say something you later regret? Do you share a meal and discuss your differences? Do you dismiss your differences? How do you find and show acceptance towards someone when you'd rather show them the door? Allison was certainly struggling with this question. I think the answer can be found in this admonition. Accept one another then, just as Christ accepted you, in order to bring praise to God. Accept one another. 3 powerful words. But what instruction is Paul actually giving us? Well, the verb he uses for accept means more than merely tolerate or coexist with someone. It means to welcome the person into your fellowship. Paul used it when he urged Philemon to welcome the slave Onesimus as he would welcome the apostle. Luke selected it to describe the hospitality of the Maltese to the shipwrecked. Most notably, Jesus used it to describe the manner in which He receives us. While Jesus doesn't accept our sinful behavior, He always accepts us as His wayward children. He doesn't tell us to clean up before we come in, but neither does He consent to leave us in our messed up state. Rather, the Gospels tell us that He is full of grace and truth. Acceptance seeks to offer both. After all, if we offer only grace, we gloss over the truth. If we offer only truth, then we dismiss the joy of grace. Our goal is to strike a balance. Oh, but if only the balance were easy to strike. The catchphrase, hate the sin and love the sinner, fits nicely on a bumper sticker, but how do we embed the principle into our hearts? I think it begins by reserving judgment. Let every person you meet be a new person in your mind. None of this labeling or preconceived notions. Pigeonholes work for pigeons, but not for people. Raleigh Washington, an African-American minister who has dedicated his life to racial reconciliation, says the most important phrase in bridge building is this: help me understand what it's like to be you. Ask the person to help you understand what it's like to be a teenager in this day and age, or the challenges he faces as an immigrant, or what it's like for her to be a female in a gray flannel corporation. And then sit back and listen. Really listen. Don't use the pause in the conversation as an opportunity to reload for the next point you'll fire off. Peter wrote, be in agreement, understanding each other, loving each other as family, being kind and humble. You're never called to redeem the world. Savior of humanity is not on your job description, so resign from the role. To do otherwise is to sentence yourself to a lifetime of misery. Happiness happens not by fixing people, but by accepting them and entrusting them into God's care. Now, Jesus did this. Otherwise, He could not have endured what He did. No one knew humankind's hypocrisy and failings more than He. He knew exactly what people needed, yet He gave them time and space to grow. We are wise to do likewise, to reserve our judgments against them, and while we are at it, we are wise to resist the urge to shout at them. It seems to me there is a lot of shouting going on in our society today. On the airwaves, shouting, on the bumper stickers, shouting, in the workplaces like Allison's, shouting. There are an awful lot of opinions out there that people feel awfully compelled to voice. In the end, it just turns out awful. This is especially true on social media, where rage and disrespect is taken to a whole new level. We post words on the internet that we would never say to a person's face. The online banter blisters and bruises. The rudeness has reached the point where I think we could all relate to the sign I once saw in a medical lab. If you are grouchy, rude, impatient, or inconsiderate, there will be a $10 charge just for putting up with you. Shouting at the opposite you feels good, but does it do any good? The Apostle Paul was critical of the person who is full of pride and understands nothing, but is sick with the love for arguing and fighting about words. This brings jealousy and fighting, speaking against others. Instead, he advised, do not argue about opinions. It's one thing to have an opinion, it's something else to have a fight. So when you sense the volume increasing and the heat rising, close your mouth. It's better to keep quiet and keep a friend than to be loud and lose one.